Patrick Johnston covers the Canucks for the province and Post Media. He joins us today. We'll start with the poll question. After 3 straight losses, where are you at? Concerned? Fine.
Concerned, I guess, if you make me pick something.
Feel free to go off the board. We understand there's a range of emotions at play here, PJ.
A concern feels too much. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Anxious.
Okay.
Is that a good word? Does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I'm on alert.
Alert. That's a good one. Yeah.
How come alert wasn't an option on the poll then?
Because you don't want to, I'm an English major. Come on, I'm just searching for the best word here. But you don't put like 12 words down in the poll question. Come on.
Alert. Yeah, and that works. Yeah, like listen, as I've said every week, the overall has been pretty good. The overall is still pretty good. That said, there's been some slides as we've seen. The losses are not have not been unfortunate losses. They played pretty well last night. They could have won.
They win the game with the power play, I think, right? They win the game with the power play. Or they get a point with the power play at the very least. Well, how do you explain what we saw there with 5 guys standing still for 2 minutes?
It's hard to fathom. I mean, there's all the other reasons. I know Jeff's been tweeting about this, and we were talking about this last weekend during the Saturday home game. Like, the way they've reset their power play doesn't make any sense. Like, it was working, and they've gone away from everything that was working. So, I mean, some of it is, you get scouted out and you got to keep yourself moving and changing and all this kind of stuff. But like Rick talks about, he wants his guys to move. Well, when you had JT Miller on the left flank, like, he was moving into the zone every time. Like, what are we talking about?
For everybody who said they were worried about the Canucks making a big move that affected chemistry, I think Elias Lindholm makes them better. But clearly, in terms of accommodating him on the power play, that has caused a trickle-down effect that has affected chemistry a little.
And I mean, I thought their first thought was to put him in the bumper, and I thought that made sense. Like, it was a good spot to put him. Like, obviously, he shoots right, so it's a bit of a different element there. But I thought it was a smart idea. He put Brock Besser net front, where he's had great success all season. I don't think it's a coincidence that he has scored again, but he hasn't scored a lot in 2024. And I don't think there's any coincidence that a lot of it has to do when he was taken away from the net front on the power play. So there's your second item. Like, you're overthinking things here. The other thing that blows my mind, and it is a much lesser thing, but the second unit power play, it feels like every time they step on the ice, like, looks like they've never practiced together before, which is not true. They practice together all the time. But to me, is there just an overarching issue here? I mean, is it because Rick Tocchet's trying to kind of do it himself and doesn't have a specialist coach on the power play, is letting the players kind of run the show themselves? Like, you give them leeway because they know how to play the game. These guys have had success, but sometimes you just need someone to say, no, guys, we're doing it this way. Let's just trust me. I don't know.
That second unit doesn't see a lot of live bullets. Like, it's a 90-second first unit power play. So I do feel bad for them sometimes when they come out at $140 on the power play and they're like, what are we going to accomplish here? So I do feel
but I mean, the overall for all of it is that at the end of the day, these guys should know what they're doing. They are NHL hockey players. Some of them are NHL stars verging on superstars. And the power play not playing well does not make sense. Quinn Hughes, I mean, I know he spoke last night. I wasn't there, obviously, and so I don't have the audio, but it sounds like he was pretty terse again. I think that's as frustrating. I mean, Quinn Hughes obviously is learning how to be a captain. Quinn Hughes being frustrated tells you kind of everything. Like,
talking was short too. Talking was
short.
Too.
They're feeling antsy, right? Like, they themselves are on alert, if you will.
Yeah.
That the power play is it's not everything, but it's a whole lot. Like they had to fix their 5-on-5. They were pretty great last night. Other than that, maybe that early shift. Think about when McKinnon blew past Noel Juleson, and we went, oh boy.
Yeah. But first 5 minutes. Yeah.
But then they found their way, and it reminded me a lot of The last time I covered a game in Colorado was early last season when they Bruce Boudreau was still the coach. But that was like one of their best defensive efforts of the season. I don't know what it is about the Alpine Air or something, but there was good work there. They worked hard. It was in many ways similar to that game in this season in November. I mean, obviously the Avs pulled away in the third period in that game, but the Canucks, they're matching up well. That is an important thing to understand. They're matching up well against a true Stanley Cup contender. They've just got to find that last bit. And I think that's been the other thing we've been noting, that on the whole, their record against the better teams in the NHL remains kind of so-so. And you need to be better if that's really what you want to be.
Before we leave this game and move on to Arshdeep Bains and to Phil Kessel and other matters, I want to read you a couple of tweets from last night and then come back and discuss. Unnamed. The Canucks played well tonight and had chances to win this game. Couple of bounces here or there, and it's a different outcome. Effort was there and a bounce-back effort. Just didn't get the result. Tweet 2. I know Canucks fans are past moral victories, but that was a pretty well-played game. Good enough to get points on a lot of nights. Those would be Grady Sass and Blake Price, Peach. and I'm here to say, yeah, exactly. I thought this was about beating one of the best teams in the league last night.
That's what I
thought this was about the Canucks haven't had a lot of wins against the cream of the crop in the NHL, and we're out here tweeting moral victories.
We left moral victories. We left them behind last year. I'm with you, Matt.
Did you see the game?
The hell with these guys.
Did you happen to see the game previous to that one?
With you, yes.
Yeah. So, you gotta walk before you run here.
They were walking, but Blake, they were walking. This is the thing.
They were running.
They've been walking and running.
They were running.
Yeah. But then they broke
their leg.
They were
running this league this year.
Then they had a spiral fracture with their foot crushed. No. Yeah. And so then they got to walk again. And
so now they're as a team, they're Ilya Mikheyev. Is that what you're saying?
So yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Good try, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know you're out from recovery. It takes 2 years to get over these things.
Yeah.
Well, to stay with the running metaphor, it is a marathon this season. So 1 of 82 is not the whole entirety of the year. And so it's a process. Last I checked, they're at 80 points. And there's 2 months left in the season. So before 80 points was the finish line. So I think they're going to be okay.
The low bar. They've made it to the low bar. It's okay, guys.
Yeah.
Right. We called him out. Let's give him his time. What do you have to say for yourself there in the producer's booth?
Well, they're coming off. There was a back-to-back second half. They're playing at higher altitude. They've given themselves a cushion to afford these type of games. Yes, they do need to get a win against Colorado and Vegas and some of the better teams in the West. But the effort was there. A couple bounces here and there. Pia Suter in front. That power play gets going.
A player texted me last night, said, you have no idea how hard back-to-back with the second one in Denver is.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So to play like they did, admirable effort.
Listen,
and they didn't get puck. They didn't get puck.
Just every pore in my body just recoils when I hear admirable effort, because I thought we were about winning. I will say this:
there was a win was there. Absolutely, a win was absolutely there.
Yeah.
You know what? At the end of the day, they lost.
Yeah.
Okay. They've had worse efforts where they've won, and they've had great efforts where they've lost.
Come join me at the No Moral Victories table. And we'll have
they've got 80 points. They're in first place, Matt. Oh my God.
Okay.
Matt and our standards are up here, and you guys are
right.
Down.
All you need is a little context, fellas.
You guys.
Is Jim Benning coming on this program?
Yeah. Over the years, whether it was, guys who made it in the league like Milan Lucic, or guys who didn't make it in the league like Ty Ronning, I would hear the talk about the Canucks do such a bad job scouting their own backyard. And I would think, okay, it would be nice to have Lower Mainland or BC players on the team, but I'm not sure the champagne is going to taste any sweeter in the Stanley Cup parade if it's a bunch of guys from locally. or, a bunch of guys from everywhere who bring this city its first Stanley Cup. They win it this year. I think the champagne will taste sweeter because of our Steve Bains. I was sitting here a couple weeks ago going, what could make this Canucks season better? How about a Punjabi kid from Surrey crashing into the NHL as an undrafted and becoming a regular for the Canucks? What an amazing story that would be.
And the way he performed last night, like there's going to be another look. Like we were talking about standards, the bar, he actually got over a pretty nice bar, right? Like playing in the NHL is hard enough. He actually looked like reasonable.
He playing the third period versus the Avs.
Yeah,
they look pretty darn good. I mean, there were a few blips there, but
his instincts were there. Like you can see the skills, the reason why he's been able to get himself to each, up to a level and then succeed at that level and then get to the next one, right? Like the sort of the mental and physical discipline is there, and now it's about, can he sustain it? And he showed up last night. He actually, he was an effective he's not a huge hitter, but he played physically. He made smart decisions. Other than maybe his first shift he never got burned. There was a shift, I think, in the third period where I'm all of a sudden like, he's keeping tabs on Nathan McKinnon on going around the net. Like there was a lot there. And I think Rick Tockett's looking for coachable players, guys who are going to listen. I actually found myself reading a story I wrote a couple months ago about the third line. And the Tocchet quote literally was, those guys listen. And that was, he was saying this is why they've been successful. Like, we have some ideas and they've been paying attention and they've been applying them. And throughout his career, it sounds like Archie Bains has been exactly one of those guys. So in terms of sticking in the NHL, there's a chance. And beyond that, absolutely, it's a fantastic story. And it will mean tons for. I mean, I talked to Randy Janda, who obviously covers the team. I talked to Jimmy Guman, a longtime local youth coach, who's sort of Bains adjacent. He coached Northeast Chiefs the year after Bains played there in the BC Major Midget League, and a guy that knows him from around, knows his coaches from coming up, and just thinks the world of this kid and says, yeah, like everything that was there was a lot of meaning. And it's going to be really important as a father who of South Asian background, who sees what his son sees, who sees what he himself sees. It's an incredible thing. It's going to be massively important for hockey, for the hockey community, for everyone in this province, and possibly even in this country.
And in lieu of the previously aforementioned Mikheyev, who is seemingly ineffective on that third line, a reasonable proxy for that group, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Mikheyev is that, like, people are like, well, why don't you scratch him? I'm like, are you really going to, like, he's not actually hurting you defensively. He's just not doing anything on offense.
No.
So
he hurt you last night. That was a bad play last night.
Sure. But on the whole, the whole, it's what are you replacing him with? Well, okay, Bains could be an option when Dakota Joshua comes back. But to this point, there's been no one that's been, there's a minimum sort of this, and there's an NHL standard that he meets. He just clears the hurdle because he's not scoring right now. But anyway, but yes, like he was a better fit on that line than Mikheyev's been since Joshua got hurt. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, not scoring right now. Hasn't scored in forever. But here's the other thing. You may want to redeploy his salary before the trade deadline. And if Bains shows you he's a player here over the next few weeks, when, as you say, Patrick, when you get Dakota Joshua back, at least you're not going to be short a forward if you turn Ilya Mikheyev into a defenseman, or at least you still get your +1 forward if you move Mikheyev. Because the other thing, guys, is trade value here that they've got to think about. I don't think you want to sewer Mikheyev's trade value before March 8th, because I could see a Kuzmenko-like outcome here in terms of, you just look at it and go, it's not working. It's a lot of money. We got to find a way to redeploy before the trade deadline, because Edmonton and Vegas and this West is scary and we need to be at our best. He's not a guy who makes us our best.
And there's, in the end, there is a baseline there. Like, he has had success. I mean, I think there is an understanding here that, listen, you come back from an ACL injury, it takes you a long time, and it's been true forever. And he's in the middle of that right now. And so, you have to find someone who says, yeah, okay, you're right.
That's why
he's
I
going to be
had
better
why
next
he
year.
could be that's why, absolutely, Patrick. He could be a next year player for somebody. But the Vancouver Canucks have all their eggs in.
But
this
that's why I
year's
wouldn't
basket.
retain though on him either, is because if you can't trade him, he may be better next year. And
and if worse comes to worse, he becomes like if he's your 13th forward, you're still doing okay.
expensive, but yes,
it's
yeah.
expensive, but
Right.
if it means that Bains is in the lineup over him, and he comes in because someone else is hurt, it's not a disaster.
Last question here. Got to be quick. Phil Kessel. It was a week ago today. He hit Abbotsford center ice.
Yes.
Coach Talk had said he would skate for a few days and then reevaluate. Mr. Dollywall reports he will not be playing games this week for Abbotsford. This ain't going well, is it?
Doesn't. I mean,
no.
It didn't surprise me. I wasn't sure he would. I thought maybe he might play games at the end of this week. They're on the road trip. I think some of it's just sort of the structure of it all.
Mm-hmm.
They're back next week. I think as I laid out last week, like next week was always kind of the deadline I was looking to see them in terms of looking at like a PTO, because that's when he really does need to play a couple games, and you do need to see how he's doing. So that's kind of where they're at. March 8th remains the deadline for signing him to an NHL contract. And as I said, he's like plan C, that their preference is to find a defenseman and find a guy who's currently playing in the NHL as a forward. And failing that, they'll consider Kessel, but they don't have to make a decision. They obviously need to see him play some games, but they don't have to make a decision for a couple weeks still anyway.
Great stuff. Thank you for this. We'll catch up next week.
See you guys.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.